Hey everyone, it's Tony, and today I'm going to show you the location of and how to replace the 4 spark plugs on your 2015 Honda Accord 2.4 liter motor. Your 4 spark plugs are hidden beneath this protective engine cover, which is held in by 5 10mm bolts. Once you take those 5 10mm bolts loose, you can remove the cover, and there are your 4 spark plugs. I recommend that when changing your spark plugs, you do them one at a time and start from the right to the left or from the left to the right. To remove my spark plug, I typically disconnect the electrical connector, but what I found on these Hondas, guys, is sometimes it's difficult to push the electrical connector back and remove it. So what I've done is I take a flathead screwdriver, and at the same time, while pushing down on the electrical connector, I push the ignition coil connector back and away from the ignition coil, and that keeps me from breaking the connector. You then want to remove this 10mm bolt which holds in the ignition coil. Then you can pull out your ignition coil. Now is a good time to examine your ignition coil. You want to check the rubber boot here at the bottom and make sure that it's not cracked up or anything of that nature. You want to check the rubber portion of the ignition boot here to make sure that it's not cracked or broken. You want to check the electrical fins of the ignition coil to make sure that they're not bent or rusted. If you should find fault with any of these, then I suggest you replace the ignition coil accordingly. I also take a flashlight and look down into the spark plug tube, and I'm looking for 2 things, guys. Debris would be one. If you should find debris, you want to take air and blow out that tube. And I'm also looking for wetness. If you see oil down in this hole, it's a sign of a bad spark plug, and you want to replace that accordingly. To get your spark plug out, you'll need a 14mm socket, a long driver, and a ratchet. And guys, don't be afraid if you have to use a little bit of elbow grease to break your spark plug free. Some spark plugs have been in a vehicle for a long time, and due to excessive heat, they can be difficult to remove. Don't worry, you can't break it removing it. I've already pre-broken this particular spark plug free. And I'm not really going to be changing the spark plugs today, guys. I'm just changing this one spark plug because someone sent me a message and pointed out that I left out a comment about gapping spark plugs. And after examining my previous video, they were correct. So I'm remaking this video to include a statement about gapping. So once you break the spark plug free, you want to take a magnet, put it down in the hole, and retrieve your spark plug. There is my old spark plug, and again, I will not be replacing all 4 spark plugs today. I did this about 5 months ago. I typically purchase spark plugs that do not require any gapping, so I can just put these spark plugs in, screw them down, put my ignition coil back on, and I'm done. If you purchase spark plugs that require gapping, please make sure that you follow the gapping guidelines outlined in your vehicle's owner's manual. Very important. So, before installing my new spark plugs, I also take what's called anti-seize and I coat the threads of my new spark plugs. What that does is it prevents the spark plug from being stuck the next time I need to remove it. It makes it extremely easier to come out. So to install your new spark plugs, you simply put your new spark plug into the hole. You take your 14mm socket and driver, and what you do is you hand thread the spark plug. You want to hand thread the spark plug first to prevent cross threading. Once you've tightened your spark plug, guys, and you don't need to go overboard, just tighten the spark plug until it's nice and snug. You then want to take your ignition coil, put it back down in there. Take your 10mm bolt, torque that down till it's nice and snug, guys. Again, you don't need to go overboard with tightening. When you're done, you want to reinsert your electrical connector. Just push that on until it snaps, and you have successfully replaced your spark plugs on your 2015 Accord. Pretty easy, guys, for the most part. If you have a 4-cylinder, guys, the process that I just did is the same for the next 3 spark plugs. If you have a 6-cylinder, the process is the same for the next 5 spark plugs. If you have a V8, process is the same for the next 7 spark plugs. I hope the video helps you guys. All you need to do next is put your engine cover on, guys, torque down your 5 10mm bolts, and you're done. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care.